Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into some seriously cool tech?
Always.
All right, well, today we're looking at Assembly AI's new speech-to-text model, Universal-2.
Yeah, they put out this article about it on October 30th, 2024.
Right, and it's making some serious waves in the industry.
What's really interesting is that the people who've tried it out overwhelmingly prefer Universal 2 over the previous version.
Oh, yeah.
Over 70% of the time, in fact.
Wow, 70%. That's a huge difference. What is it about Universal-2 that has people so excited? Is it just that it's more accurate?
Well, accuracy is definitely a big part of it, but it's not the whole story.
Okay, so there's more to it.
Yeah. Universal 2 is designed to make transcripts not just accurate, but actually usable. They're trying to solve what they call those last mile challenges. You know, the things that can make a transcript go from meh to, wow, this is amazing.
I see. So what kind of last mile challenges are we talking about here?
Think about those times when you've gotten a transcript back and it's just riddled with errors, like names and places are all messed up.
Ugh, yeah. I've definitely had my share of transcripts where Elon Musk somehow became Alien Dusk or something.
Exactly. It's frustrating, right?
Absolutely. And it makes you kind of question if you can even trust the rest of the transcript.
For sure. And that's one of the big things Universal 2 tackles head on. They've seen a 24% improvement in proper noun accuracy.
Oh, wow. So less time spent fixing those errors and more confidence in the overall output.
Exactly. And it's not just proper nouns. The formatting has also gotten a major upgrade.
Right. The article mentioned they moved to a neural network approach for formatting.
Yeah.
What makes that so groundbreaking?
Well, think about it this way. In the past, systems relied on kind of rigid rules for things like punctuation and capitalization.
Okay.
But language is so much more nuanced than that.
Right.
So with a neural network, the system can actually learn from tons of data and start to understand the context of what's being said.
So it's like the system is learning to read between the lines.
Exactly. It can figure out when to use a comma versus a period, when to capitalize certain words, and even how to convert spoken numbers and dates into written form.
I'm looking at an example in the article here. They fed the system this totally jumbled mess. Are you happy that AssemblyAI will release Universal-2 on October 30th at 3 p.m. ET,
That's a mouthful.
and it spits out a perfectly formatted sentence? Are you happy that AssemblyAI will release Universal-2 on October 30th at 3 p.m. EET? It's really amazing to see.
It really shows the power of this approach. It's not just following rules, it's actually understanding how language flows.
Yeah, this is all making a lot more sense now. So it's not just about hitting a high word error rate. It's about making the transcript feel more human and natural.
Precisely. And that brings us to another really cool feature they've implemented.
Okay, what's that?
They've found a way to deal with those repeating digits that can really trip up speech-to-text systems.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that before, especially with things like phone numbers or addresses. How did they fix it?
Well, Universal 2 uses an RNNT architecture, which is great for a lot of things.
Okay.
But it has this quirk where it struggles with repeated words or digits.
So like if someone says 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, it might miss some of those repeated numbers.
Exactly. So to get around this, they came up with a clever solution. They insert something called a repeat token between those repeated words or digits during training.
Okay, so the model learns to recognize this repeat token as a signal that a word or digit is being repeated.
Right. And then during transcription, they just remove the repeat token. So you end up with a perfectly accurate sequence, even with all those repetitions.
That's a really elegant solution. It's one of those things that might seem like a small detail, but for certain situations, it's crucial.
Right. Especially when you're dealing with sensitive information like financial data or medical records.
Absolutely. Every detail matters in those cases. So with all this talk about accuracy and formatting, I'm curious about the data they used to train Universal-2. The article mentioned they doubled the amount of training data.
Yeah, they did.
Is that the key? Just feeding it more and more data?
It's definitely part of it,
Yeah.
but they've also really emphasized the quality of the data. They've been super meticulous about cleaning and filtering the data, making sure the model is learning from the best examples possible.
That makes a lot of sense. You can't just throw any old data at it and expect it to perform well.
Exactly. It's kind of like baking a cake with rotten eggs. You need high-quality ingredients to get a delicious result.
So they have a massive amount of data, they're carefully curating it, and they've implemented all these amazing features to boost accuracy and usability. But how do we know it actually works?
Well, that's where the human preference test comes in. They put the transcripts from Universal 2 and the previous model in front of people and ask them which one they preferred. No tricks, no hints, just a blind test.
And remember, Universal-2 came out on top over 70% of the time.
Exactly. It's a clear indication that people find the Universal-2 transcripts to be more accurate, more readable, and just overall more enjoyable to work with.
That's impressive. But all these advancements, did they have to compromise on speed to get there? Did Universal-2 become slower?
That's a good question, and it's something they were very conscious of. They didn't want to create this super accurate model that took forever to process audio and generate a transcript.
So did they manage to keep the speed up while making all these improvements?
They did. They've maintained excellent timestamp accuracy, which is super important for things like video editing or captioning.
Okay.
And the inference speed, how quickly the model processes audio and creates a transcript, is just as good as the previous model, if not better.
So they didn't fall into that trap of thinking bigger is always better. They made Universal-2 more powerful and sophisticated while still keeping it fast and efficient.
Exactly. That's one of the big takeaways here. Universal-2 isn't just some theoretical advancement. It's a practical tool that's ready to be used right now.
That has me thinking, what are all the potential uses for this kind of technology? Not just for basic transcription, but things like real-time captioning, or maybe even things we haven't thought of yet.
Absolutely. That's what makes this so exciting. We're seeing a major leap forward in a technology that could revolutionize how we interact with information and each other.
It feels like we're moving into a future where voice isn't a barrier to communication or access to information anymore.
I think so too.
Yeah.
A future where language doesn't limit how we learn, how we work, and how we experience the world around us.
This is pretty mind-blowing stuff. But before we get lost in the possibilities of the future, let's talk about some specific areas where we might see the impact of Universal-2 in the more immediate future. What do you think?
Well, one area that immediately comes to mind is education. Imagine a classroom where every lecture is automatically transcribed.
Yeah.
It would make learning so much more accessible for everyone, especially students who have difficulty taking notes or those who learn better in different ways.
That's a great point. And think about the benefits for educators. They could use those transcripts to review their own lessons, see where students might be having trouble, and even personalize their teaching methods.
Exactly. It's not just about students and teachers either. Imagine what this could do for online learning platforms. They could use Universal-2 to automatically generate captions and subtitles for their courses, making them accessible to a global audience.
Wow, that's huge. The implications are really significant. But education is just the beginning, right?
Oh, absolutely. What about healthcare? Doctors could use Universal-2 to dictate notes, streamline their workflow, and cut down on errors.
It could also make patient records more accurate and accessible, which is so important for providing quality care.
And let's not forget about accessibility for people with disabilities.
Yeah.
Universal-2 could open up a world of possibilities. We're talking voice control of devices, real-time captioning for live events, so many things.
It's incredible to think about how much of an impact this kind of technology could have, and we're just scratching the surface here.
I know, right? Think about creative industries like filmmaking or music production, even writing.
The possibilities really do seem endless. It feels like we're just at the very beginning of this journey, just starting to explore the true potential of this technology.
I agree, and it's important to remember that this is only the beginning. As this technology continues to develop, we can expect even more innovative uses and impactful experiences.
It's an exciting time to be alive, that's for sure, to see this revolution in technology unfolding right before our eyes.
It really is.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground today, but before we wrap up this first part of our deep dive, I want to come back to something you mentioned earlier about the human-centric validation.
Oh, yes. That was important.
It really drives home the point that technology should ultimately be about people and improving our lives.
Exactly. It's not enough to create something that's just technically impressive. It has to be something that people want to use and that makes their lives better. I think AssemblyAI has really nailed it with Universal-2.
So as we wrap up part one, what are your final thoughts on this deep dive into the world of Universal-2?
I'm honestly blown away by what they've achieved. They're really pushing the boundaries of what's possible with speech-to-text technology.
And I'm excited to see where it goes from here, how this technology will continue to evolve and shape the future.
It's definitely a future filled with possibilities.
All right, that's a wrap for part one of our deep dive into Universal-2.
You know what I find really remarkable? AssemblyAI's approach with all this. It's not just about the tech.
Right.
They're really focused on the user experience, making it, user-friendly.
Yeah, I totally agree. That human preference test really sealed the deal for me. It's one thing to say your model's better, but to have people consistently picking it over the old one,
Huh?
that's pretty convincing.
For sure. And that leads to something else I found interesting in the article.
Okay, what's that?
All these improvements, the accuracy, the formatting, the usability, they managed to do it all while keeping things efficient.
So they didn't have to sacrifice speed or anything to get those improvements.
Nope. They actually improved in both areas. Timestamp accuracy is still excellent, which is crucial for video syncing and all that.
Right.
And the inference speed, how fast the model processes audio, it's just as good, if not better than before.
So basically, they've made it practical.
Exactly.
You get all the cool new features without having to wait around forever.
Precisely. It's ready to be used right now.
Okay, now my brain's going a mile a minute.
Yeah.
All these potential uses beyond just, basic transcription.
Oh, yeah.
Like real-time captioning for live events or even things we haven't even thought of yet.
I know, right? It's exciting. This technology could completely change how we interact with information and with each other.
It's like we're on the verge of a world where voice is no longer a barrier.
Exactly.
To communication, to access to information.
A world where language doesn't limit us anymore.
All right, let's do a little future casting. Where do you think we'll see the biggest impact from Universal-2, right away?
Okay, well, first thing that pops into my head, education. Picture this. Every classroom, every lecture, automatically transcribed.
Makes learning accessible to everyone.
Exactly. Think about students who have a hard time taking notes, or those who, maybe they learn better in different ways.
It levels the playing field.
And for teachers, too. They can review their lessons, see where students are struggling, and adapt their teaching.
So many benefits for both sides.
It's not just about classrooms, though. Imagine online learning platforms. Universal-2 could automatically create captions and subtitles for all their courses.
Wow, yeah. Suddenly those courses are accessible to everyone, everywhere. It's huge. But there's more, right? Beyond education, I mean.
Of course. Healthcare. Think about doctors being able to dictate their notes, streamline their work, and reduce those, human errors.
And it would make patient records more accurate and accessible, which is critical.
Absolutely. And we can't forget about accessibility for people with disabilities.
Right.
This technology could open up so many doors for them. Voice control, real-time captioning for events. It's amazing to think about the possibilities.
The impact this could have on people's lives is incredible, and we're just scratching the surface.
Right. Think about the creative fields, too. Filmmaking, music, writing.
Yeah, so many possibilities.
It really makes you wonder, what will people come up with?
Yeah. It feels almost overwhelming, like we're at this turning point in history watching it unfold.
It's a pretty incredible time to be alive, for sure.
Okay, before we move on, I want to loop back to something we talked about earlier. That whole idea of human-centric validation.
Oh, yes.
That was a key point. Really shows that ultimately technology is about us.
It's about making our lives better, not just about being impressive.
Exactly. It's got to have real-world value.
And AssemblyAI has really nailed that with Universal-2, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's not just cool tech. It's actually useful and, impactful.
So as we wrap up part 2 of this deep dive, I'm curious, what are your overall thoughts on Universal-2 so far?
I'm genuinely excited about it. It feels like a real game changer.
And I, for one, can't wait to see where it goes next.
Me too.
Okay, so we're back for the last part of our deep dive into Universal-2. And before we wrap up, we want to hear from you.
Yes. How do you see Universal-2 making a difference in your world?
What kind of crazy cool things could you do with this level of speech-to-text accuracy?
Maybe it's something practical, like, automating meeting minutes.
Right.
Or creating some kind of personalized language learning tool.
Or maybe it's something totally out there, like composing music, just using your voice.
Oh, that would be cool.
Or, I don't know, generating interactive stories.
Wow.
We're really just scratching the surface here, so let's dream big.
This whole conversation has really opened my eyes. I knew this tech was moving fast, but I had no idea it was this good.
I'm with you. Universal-2 is on another level. And there was this one thing in the article that really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
They talk about how Universal-2 isn't just about improving accuracy, just getting the words right.
Right.
It's about making those transcripts more human.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's like they're not just trying to build machines that can copy human speech.
Yeah.
They're trying to build machines that actually get it. The nuances of human language.
It's like they're teaching these machines to understand us, not just parrot us.
And that's what's so powerful about this whole thing. It's not about replacing us. It's about enhancing us, making communication richer, more efficient, more open for everyone.
I like that, breaking down those barriers and, well, creating new possibilities.